My name is Joyce Fisher. I'm 30 years old, a financial analyst in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I worked years to buy my own condo. It was supposed to be my safe place. Then one Saturday, the doorbell rang. 3 sharp knocks. When I opened the door, my parents stood there with 5 suitcases. "Joyce, we need to stay with you. We lost our house." Their faces looked desperate, but something in their eyes felt wrong. Too calm, too rehearsed. Have you ever had family show up with a story that didn't add up? Tell me in the comments. Because what I discovered next shattered everything I thought I knew about family. I let them in. Because they were my parents. What else was I supposed to do? They dropped their bags in my entryway. My mom hugged me tight. "You're such a good daughter, Joyce." Her words sounded sweet, but also like a warning. My dad muttered thanks, then started unpacking like he was moving in for good. That night, I couldn't sleep. Their story didn't add up. Bad investments. They owned their house outright. No mortgage. How do you lose something like that overnight? The next morning, they acted like nothing was wrong. Mom bustled around my kitchen, humming while she made pancakes. Dad fiddled with a loose cabinet, saying, "This place could use a man's touch." It looked normal, almost comforting, but it felt staged, like a performance. At breakfast, I tried to sound casual. "So, what's your plan? Looking for a new place yet?" My mom's fork froze. Then she smiled too quickly. "Oh, we're still figuring it out." Dad added, "Don't worry, we won't be a burden." But he didn't look at me when he said it. By lunch, my gut was screaming. Something was off. They weren't asking me for money, but they weren't acting like people who'd lost everything either. My mom kept talking about starting fresh. My dad mentioned my brother, just once, saying he was doing fine. Doing fine? That raised a red flag. My brother hadn't spoken to me in months. Why bring him up now? That afternoon, I watched them closely. Mom rearranged my living room pillows. "This place feels like home," she said. My dad sprawled on my couch, flipping channels. It was like they weren't guests at all. They were settling in. Every time I asked about their next steps, they brushed me off. "Don't worry, Joyce. We're just grateful to be here." Grateful, but also evasive. That night, I locked myself in my room. My chest tight, my phone in my hand. I texted Scott Hayes, my old college friend, now a lawyer. "My parents say they lost their house. Can you check the records?" He replied instantly. "Give me a day, I'll find out." I set my phone down. My heart wouldn't stop racing. Because deep down I already knew this wasn't the whole truth. And the truth was about to break me wide open. The next morning I woke to the smell of bacon. Mom was humming at the stove, flipping pancakes. "Good morning, Joyce," she said warmly. Her tone was too bright, too rehearsed. I sat at the counter, watching her plate the food. "So, any luck finding a new place yet?" I asked. She froze, then smiled quickly. "We're working on it, honey. It's tough out there." Dad chimed in from the couch. "Yeah, real estate's a mess. We'll get there." But he never looked up. Every answer was vague. Every glance between them too quick. At lunch, Mom steered the conversation to safe topics. Dad mentioned my brother. "Busy with his new venture," he said. "What venture?" I asked. Mom shot him a look. "Oh, just some business idea," she said. "You know how he is." No, I didn't. He hadn't spoken to me in months. Their dodge made my skin prickle. By afternoon, I felt like a stranger in my own home. Mom reorganized my spice rack. "This will make cooking easier for us," she said. Us. Dad hung a family photo on my wall. No permission. Just did it. Like they were claiming my space piece by piece. That night I locked my door. I texted Scott Hayes, my old college friend, now a lawyer. "Any updates?" Minutes later he called, his voice low. "Joyce, I checked the records. Your parents didn't lose their house. They sold it. $950,000. The money went to your brother. He bought a property here in Fort Wayne." My chest tightened. "You're sure?" "Positive. I have the deed transfer." I sat frozen, staring at the wall. They hadn't lost everything. They'd handed nearly $1 million to him. Then walked into my condo acting like victims. The next day, my grandmother Clara stopped by. She took one look at me and frowned. "You look tense, Joyce. What's going on?" I told her everything. She listened, hands folded tight. "Lost their house?" she repeated sharply. "They didn't lose a thing. They gave it to your brother. And Scarlett Stone, his girlfriend, is behind it. She's got him wrapped around her finger." Her words cut deep. They hadn't just lied. They'd chosen him again. I looked at the family photo Dad had hung. My brother's smug face stared back like mockery. They expected me to roll over. Not this time. I texted Scott. "I need every record you've got. I'm confronting them tomorrow." My hands shook as I hit send. Because deep down, I knew this wasn't going to end quietly. The next evening, I walked into the living room. My parents were settled in like they owned the place. Mom knitting on the couch, Dad flipping through a magazine. I held my phone tight. Scott had sent me the deed transfer. Cold proof. We need to talk, I said, my voice steady but my pulse racing. Mom looked up, her tone too sweet. What's wrong, Joyce? Dad lowered his magazine, eyes narrowing. What's this about? I didn't sit. I raised my phone. I know you sold your house. $950,000. All to buy my brother a new place. Care to explain? Mom's face paled. Her knitting slipped to the floor. Dad leaned forward, jaw tight. Who told you that? He demanded. Doesn't matter, I said coldly. I want the truth. Show me your bank records right now, or I'm done. Mom's eyes widened. Joyce, calm down. It's not what you think. But her voice cracked. Dad stood, fists clenched. You're accusing us? After we raised you? I stepped closer. You lied. You said you lost everything. But you gave it all to him. Why? Mom reached for me. We were going to tell you, honey. It's complicated. I pulled away. No. You had your chance. Show me the records, or you're out. Dad's face darkened. You don't get to talk to us like that. His voice rose. Then his hand shot out. A sharp crack. The sting burned across my cheek. For a moment, the world froze. My own father, the man who once tucked me in at night, had just hit me. Mom gasped, covering her mouth. But she didn't move. I staggered back, my hand on my cheek. How dare you, I whispered. You think you can hit me in my own home? The shouting must have carried, because a knock came at the door. My neighbor, Robert Clark, peeked in. Everything okay, Joyce? I forced a smile, my voice tight. Just a family discussion, Mr. Clark. Thanks for checking. He hesitated, then nodded. I'm next door if you need me. When the door shut, silence fell heavy. My cheek throbbed, but inside me, something snapped. You have 30 minutes to pack and leave, I said, or I'm calling the police. Mom burst into tears. Joyce, please don't do this. We're your parents. Dad's eyes burned with rage. You ungrateful brat. We gave you everything. And this is how you repay us? I didn't flinch. You gave him everything. You lied to me, used me, and now you hit me. Get out. Mom sobbed louder. We have nowhere to go. But I'd heard enough. Their tears, their rage. It was all a show. I grabbed my phone, set it on the counter, watching the clock tick. 25 minutes, I said flatly. Dad glared, fists still tight. But he didn't move closer. Because he knew I was done being their victim. Minutes dragged like hours. Mom sobbed on the couch, muttering about loyalty. Dad paced by the window, cursing under his breath. 15 minutes left, I said, my voice flat, phone in hand. Mom's head snapped up. You wouldn't dare, she whispered, her eyes wide, desperate. Dad snorted. She's bluffing. She's too soft for that. But I wasn't bluffing. Not this time. 10 minutes, I said. My hand hovered over the screen. Dad's voice turned venomous. You'll regret this, Joyce. You think you can throw us out like trash? I met his gaze, unflinching. You made your choice. Now I'm making mine. Mom stood, trembling. Please, Joyce, we're family. Don't do this. I shook my head. You stopped being family when you lied to me. When you thought you could take my home. Dad stepped toward me, fists tight. I raised my phone. 5 minutes. Try anything and I'm dialing. The tension was suffocating. Every second heavy. When 30 minutes were up, I pressed call. 911, what's your emergency? My parents are trespassing in my condo, I said calmly. They refused to leave. Within minutes, 2 officers arrived. Firm knocks on the door. I let them in. This is my property, I said, handing over my lease. They've been staying here against my wishes. The older officer, calm and steady, looked at my parents. Do you have proof of residency? Dad's face reddened. Mom started crying louder. She's kicking us out. We have nowhere to go. Dad jabbed a finger at me. She's lying. This is our home too. The officer raised a hand. Enough. Do you have documents? Lease, deed, anything? They had nothing. The officer turned to me. This is your condo, Miss Fisher. If you want them out, we'll enforce it. Dad exploded. You can't do this. She's our daughter. He lunged forward, voice rising. You'll pay for this, Joyce. You hear me? The younger officer stepped in fast. Sir, back off. Threaten her again and you're leaving in cuffs. Mom pulled at his arm. Thomas, stop, she whispered. But Dad's eyes burned holes into mine. Pure hatred. You have 10 minutes to gather your things, the officer said firmly. We'll wait. Defeat flickered across Mom's face. She stuffed clothes into a suitcase, still muttering. Dad slammed drawers, every motion violent. I stood by the door, arms crossed, watching them unravel. Watching years of betrayal crystallize in this moment. When their bags hit the entryway, Dad turned, spitting venom. You're no daughter of mine. The words cut sharp and deep, but I didn't flinch. You made that clear when you chose my brother, I said, my voice steady, final. Mom reached out, her hand trembling. Joyce, please. I stepped back. We're done. The officers escorted them out. Their figures disappeared down the hallway. I closed the door, leaning against it. The silence thundered in my ears. For the first time, my condo was mine again. But the cost was a family I no longer recognized. Weeks passed. My condo felt different. The silence wasn't heavy anymore. It was peaceful. Mine. I blocked my parents' numbers. No calls, no emails, no begging messages. Just quiet. But word travels in Fort Wayne. Grandma Clara kept me updated. She called one evening, sighing into the phone. They're with your brother now. Thought his shiny new house would save them. I braced myself. Did it? Clara snorted. 3 days in, he kicked them out. Said they were disrupting his lifestyle. They ended up in a cheap motel. I wasn't surprised, but I wasn't satisfied either. It just confirmed what I already knew. And then came the bigger blow. My brother's house, the one they'd poured $950,000 into. Gone. Scarlet Stone convinced him to mortgage it. Invest in a risky stock play. The market crashed. The house foreclosed. She vanished with what was left. He was left with nothing but debt. My parents, too. The empire they thought they'd built around him crumbled to dust. Meanwhile, I was rebuilding, steadily, on my own terms. But they didn't go quietly. I heard they'd been telling neighbors I'd thrown them out heartlessly, that I'd turned my back on family. Their lies stung. Not because I cared about their approval, but because they were tarnishing my name. I'd worked hard for respect in this city. I wasn't about to let them steal that too. I called Scott, told him everything. Can we sue for defamation? I asked. He didn't hesitate. We've got a case. The court sided with me, ordered them to retract their words, pay damages. They didn't even show up to the hearing. I didn't care about the money. I cared about the truth. And the truth was clear. Through it all, Clara was my anchor. Every weekend, I sat in her kitchen, coffee steaming, her stories reminding me I came from a line of women who didn't break. One afternoon, she looked me dead in the eye. You did what you had to, Joyce. Don't ever feel guilty for protecting yourself. Her words settled deep. A reminder that family isn't a free pass to hurt you. Looking back, I realized something. I'd always thought love meant giving everything, even when it broke me. But I learned love without boundaries is just an invitation to be used. Now my condo is more than walls. It's my sanctuary, my strength, my proof that I'm enough on my own. And if I had to choose again, I'd make the same choice. Because at the end of the day, protecting your peace isn't selfish. It's survival. So I'll leave you with this. What would you do if someone you love crossed a line? How far would you go to protect what's yours? Share your story in the comments. And if mine resonated with you, hit subscribe. There are more stories to tell. Stories about betrayal, survival, and the power of taking your life back.